My name is Ben, and I am going to present to you my pH pendulum in regards to the A, B, Gs. And then hopefully this will make it somewhat easier to identify what's going on. So we'd like to start off with A, alveoli, B is our balance, and G is genitourinary. The balance is going to stand for this pivot point. And what I'd like us to take into consideration is this pivot point acting as a teeter-totter. And if we're going to push up or down on this side, this arrow is going to be up and down, directly correlating with what I have presented here is the pH. And the pH is in a vertical manner. And likewise over here, if we were to push and pull on this end, how it would affect this arrow and how this arrow would point onto the pH scale. So we'll move forward, first of all, with alveoli. And I want us to consider this to be respiratory and the effects of that. And if we were to have effects, the normal range for CO2 is going to be 35 to 45 millimeters mercury. Now, if we were to go above that 45, then that would be an increase, correct? If we were to increase this, or if we were to pull up on the pendulum, that would directly vert this arrow down to this acidosis, which is exactly what happens. When we have increased CO2, we have decrease on the pH scale and an acidotic state. If we were to go below that 35 and we were to have low CO2 levels, then that would push down on the pendulum, therefore making this arrow go up, and that would move us towards a state of alkalosis. Now, we know what the problem is with CO2, we call it respiratory, and then depending on whether the CO2 levels are up or down is going to how it depends on where the arrow points. So we have respiratory alkalosis or respiratory acidosis. If we look at the pH, and if our pH was in the normal range, 7.35 to 7.45, we would still be respiratory alkalosis or acidosis. It would just be compensated. If our pH is below 7.35 or above the 7.45, then we would be in an uncompensated state. Now when we move over to this side, the genitourinary, I want us to consider this to be metabolic, and it directly works with our bicarbonate. Bicarbonate levels are normally going to want to be between 22 and 26. Now if we were above 26 and our bicarbonate was elevated, we put the arrow up here. Elevated bicarbonate would push this arrow upwards towards an alkalosis or a state of alkalosis. Now if we were below 22 bicarbonate, then this arrow would be down. And if we have low bicarb, pushing down, we're moving towards an acidotic state, and that's exactly what happens with a metabolic acidosis related to a bicarbonate below 22. And once again, the same rules apply for compensated or uncompensated. If our pH is within normal ranges, we would be compensated. If not, then it would be uncompensated. Thank you. I hope this video helps.